Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Tarot. The cards will supposedly tell your future. I personally do tarot and I completely believe in it. I mean, the stuff that the cards pick up on is a little too on the nose to dismiss. I use different tarot decks, but all versions and themes of tarot decks come from one deck, created by a woman that unfortunately has been erased from her masterpiece, Pamela Colman Smith. Let's get started. Freaking fly in here and I can't like flies. Pamela Colman Smith was born on February 16, 1876 in Pimlico, London, England. Her mother was Corinne Colman, who is the sister of famous painter Samuel Colman, and her father was Charles Edward Smith, who is the son of Brooklyn Mayor Cyrus Porter Smith. Pamela was an only child and grew up in between Manchester and Jamaica for the first 7 to 10 years of her life. But the family settled in the capital city of Kingston, Jamaica, when Charles took a job with the West India Improvement Company, which was a financial organization that was involved in extending the railroad system in Jamaica in 1889. The family lived here for the next several years. While in Jamaica, Pamela took on the West Indies fashion, and it's from this that, for reasons that I don't really quite know, there's conflict as to whether or not she is biracial. Supposedly, her mother was Jamaican and her father was white American, but to this day, there's no evidence to this. In 1893, Pamela moved to Brooklyn at the age of 15, where she enrolled in the Pratt Institute in New York City. The Pratt Institute is a private university comprising of 6 schools and is primarily known for their programs in architecture, engineering, and fine arts. The institute was founded just 6 years before Pamela enrolled in 1887. She studied art under painter, printmaker, photographer, and influential arts instructor Arthur Weasley Dow. Pamela's mature style of drawing shows traces of the visionary qualities of fin de siècle symbolism, which is a French term meaning end of century. The phrase typically incorporates both the similar English meaning turn of the century and makes references to the closing of an era and beginning of another. And Romanticism, which is characterized by its emphasis on emotion, individualism, and glorification of the past and nature. Pamela's drawing style was beginning to emerge in the beginning phases of the arts and crafts movement. This movement was an international trend from 1880 to 1920. It was basically a rebellion against mass production, believing in craftsmanship, the importance of nature as inspiration, and the value of simplicity, unity, and beauty. Unfortunately, while in art school, Pamela's mother died in 1896. Also while at school, Pamela was prone to becoming ill on and off, and it seemed that her mother passing was the last straw, and she left Pratt in 1897 without graduating. She became an illustrator, and her works got her into her first exhibition at the William Macbeth's Gallery in New York in 1897 at just the age of 19. Is nuts. At 19, she got her first exhibition. I say it weird because my mouth keeps on wanting to say another word that I'm not going to say, or else then it's going to stick there, and I'm not going to say that word. There, she sold 4 of her watercolor paintings. Her illustrations also got her into books, including the illustrated verses of William Butler Yeats in 1898, a book by Abraham Bram Stoker, and she helped actress Ellen Terry illustrate a book about Sergei Diaghilev's Russian ballet company. By 1899, Pamela illustrated 2 books of her own, Whitcomb Fair, which are illustrated versions of a popular English folk melody, and Anansi Stories, a collection of Jamaican folk tales. One of these folk tales in Anansi is the god of knowledge, stories, wisdom, and trickery, the spider god Anansi from Akan mythology. Just stick with me. This is really cool. Originated in Ghana, Anansi was often celebrated as a symbol of slave resilience and survival during the Atlantic slave trade because he is able to turn the tables on the powerful tyrants by using cunning and trickery, which was a model of behavior the slaves used to gain the upper hand in many plantation revolts. These spiders are not completely scary. I mean, he looks cute in this one, but in this one, I'll hug the spider from Harry Potter before I hug that thing. Unfortunately, that next year in 1899, her father died, leaving Pamela with no parents by age 21. She returned to London that same year and continued her illustration work. By 1901, she began to branch out into theater design for miniature theater. I mean, this stuff is detailed and it's so freaking cute. During this time, she was taken in by the Lyceum Theater Group led by Terry Henry Irving and now good friend Bram Stoker. Pamela traveled all around the country with them, working on costumes and stage design. It is said that Pamela got the nickname Pixie from Terry. The nickname captured her indefinable and impish spirit. Now, I don't know how tall she is. I mean, if she's Kevin Hart size, sure, but I don't think she's that. Pamela would wear flowing robes, pants occasionally, and she adopted the native costumes and wore feathers and colorful ribbons in her hair. I mean, I'm so sorry. She looks like every fortune teller ever, but with swag. Also during this time, she established a weekly open house and continued to sell artworks in her studio apartment, and started her own magazine called The Green Sheaf that featured female writings, folk, and fairy tales. She held parties at her apartment, and apparently they were it. Pamela's sense of fun was infectious. She would sing songs, would dress in orange robes, and at times she would take on a persona that would tell Caribbean folk tales in the Jamaican language called Gallikizanger. That is a legendary name. Also in 1901, William introduced her to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, commonly known as the Golden Dawn. This was a secret society in Great Britain that was devoted to studying and practicing occult Hermeticism, the occult, metaphysics, and the paranormal during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Before we move on, can we just say how awesome this logo is? It's a rainbow cross with woo-woo things on it. Before we move on, Hermeticism, very basically, is the concept that God is viewed as a magician. I mean, the flood, Moses parting the seas with his help, that's pretty magician, Gandalf-y, Dumbledore-y stuff, if you ask me. You want anything to happen? I crack myself up. Pamela joined the Golden Dawn in the same year, and through this, she met fellow member, British poet, and scholarly mystic, I want that name, Arthur Edward Waite. Before we move on, let's talk about the Green Sheaf, because 1, it's really cool, and 2, it's very important to Pamela's story. The Green Sheaf's first publication was in 1903 and had a total of 13 issues. It had works of well-known authors such as George William Russell, Lady Gregory, William Blake, and many others. But in just over a year, Pamela wasn't liking the finances coming from the magazine. So in 1904, she shifted her efforts towards more of a small press version because the first issue was printed on handmade paper, and the illustrations were drawn and colored by hand. All of this was done by hand. With this shift, she established the Green Sheaf Press that published many novels, poems, fairy tales, and folk tales, mainly done by women. Freaking girl power, bro. The magazine shut down by 1906. Over the years, Pamela formed many friendships with famous people, such as Ellen Terry, Henry Irving, Bram Stoker, who is the author of Dracula, by the way, and photographer and art promoter Alfred Stieglitz. Alfred gave Pamela space in his New York art gallery called 921 for another exhibition of her work in 1907. When she had this exhibition, it made her the first painter to be in this gallery other than exclusively avant-garde photography. This exhibition featured 72 watercolor paintings that were of fairy tales and folklore with human-animal hybrids. I don't know what this purple thing is. It looks like the purple version of a liger, but almost. Fascinatingly, Pamela had synesthesia, which is the extraordinary ability to see sound as color. Pamela's paintings were visions that would come to her while listening to music, and she often titled her work as if they were pieces of music, sonatas, concertis, and overtures. Her exhibition was such a success that she had 2 more shows at this gallery, one in 1908 and another in 1909. Some of Pamela's work that didn't sell, Alfred kept, and they are now at the Alfred Stieglitz Georgia O'Keeffe Archive at Yale University. Around 1909, the Golden Dawn dissolved due to personal conflicts, and Pamela went with Arthur to the independent and rectified Rite of the Golden Dawn, or Holy Order of the Golden Dawn. Either one, cool freaking names. In that same year, Arthur commissioned Pamela to help him make a tarot deck. He chose her because he wanted a deck in which every card was illustrated, which was completely new. Before we move on, let's talk about Arthur and tarot. Arthur wrote extensively about the occult and esoteric matters. He wrote many books about divination, esotericism, Freemasonry, ceremonial magic, Kabbalism, and alchemy. He translated and reissued several mystical works and wrote about the Holy Grail. Before Arthur commissioned this deck, esoteric, which is a form of spirituality that emphasizes the importance of the individual effort to obtain spiritual knowledge, tarot readers for years had used the Tarot de Marseille playing card deck. Arthur published a volume with the tarot deck called The Key to the Tarot, which was later republished and expanded in 1911, called The Pictorial Key to the Tarot, which is a tarot reading guide. Now, what is tarot? I'm really excited to talk about this. Doing this research, I really went deep, as you all know, I went deep into what tarot is, and it's fascinating. I thought I knew, I had no idea. Basically, tarot is a deck of playing cards that has been used since the mid-15th century in many parts of Europe to play card games like tarotcany, which is a trick-taking game. Now, how this formed into the tarot that we know today is fascinating. The origin of tarot is unknown, but the first written references date back to between 1440 and 1450 in northern Italy. This is when additional cards with the allegorical illustrations were added to the common 4-suit deck. This new deck was called Carte de Triomphe, or Triumph Packs. By the late 18th century, French occultists made elaborate iffy claims about their history and meaning. This led to the emergence of decks being used for divination via tarot card reading and cartomancy. Thus, there are 2 versions of tarot, the card game and divination. The commonly known tarot deck consists of 78 cards with 2 groups, the major arcana and the minor arcana. The major arcana, sometimes called the greater arcana, are numbered typically from 0 to 21 and are the only cards that have specific names. Minor arcana, sometimes called lesser arcana, are 56 suit cards. The suits each have 10 numbered cards and 4 court or face cards. Fascinatingly, the commonly known name of the suits come from Latin: cups, pentacles, wands, and swords, whereas the French version is hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades, which is what all playing cards ever are derived from. Fly. Go away from me. However, what makes the French suits different from the Latin suits is 1 card, the jack, known as the page in tarot. There is also an elemental version of tarot, where cups is water, pentacles is earth, wands is fire, and swords is air. Isn't that freaking cool? Up until Arthur commissioned this new deck, other tarot decks mainly had illustrations of only the major arcana, sometimes the court cards, but it was rare. And the only known example of a fully illustrated tarot deck was the Solabusca deck, which was made by a wealthy Milanese family in the 1490s. And yes, he has a great butt. Don't know what's his deal. Arthur suggested that Pamela use this deck for inspiration, and though there are many similarities in the symbolism of the 2 decks, Pamela's work is completely original. Arthur and Pamela did work together on this deck, but Arthur's contribution was more like half-ish. He was responsible for the concepts, structure of the cards, and the symbolic system, while Pamela did all the artwork. Pamela worked on the deck for 6 months, from April to October of 1909. This is incredibly fast for making about 80 pictures. The illustrations were drawn by pen and ink, but it's possible that the pen and ink cover pencil drawings, but the originals are lost, so this is not confirmed. Can you imagine finding the original of these things? They were either colored by Pamela with watercolor or possibly colored by somebody else. Personally, I think she did all the work. Some of the illustrations are possibly secret portraits of her friends. Notably, the Queen of Wands could be Ellen Terry or her daughter Edith, and the World card could be actress and composer Florence Fair. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. Pamela rejected the traditional abstract symbolism for intimate scenes. For example, the 10 of Cups. A couple embrace while their children dance. The couple gaze up to the heavens where 10 cups make a rainbow. The Sun card. A baby laughs while straddling a white horse in a field of sunflowers beneath a serene sun. Personally, I don't know about the serene face part. I mean, he looks upset. But let's just be clear, this whole image is weird. This kid is straddling a horse naked. He's gonna get hair in places he shouldn't get hair. The High Priestess, a strong woman sits on her throne with a backdrop of patterned wallpaper and a crescent moon at her feet. And the Star card. A naked woman crouches over a stream while pouring water into the stream and on the grass. Why she's naked, I don't know. But the best example of Pamela's personality in the tarot artwork is in the Fool card. A genderless person in a flowered robe is on a journey. A white rose in one hand, a staff in the other, and is accompanied by a faithful white dog. The person's unknown journey is joyous, not frightening. This shows Pamela felt that the unknown was an exciting place of possibility. And that's literally the meaning of the Fool card. Pamela was the first artist to use characters in the minor arcana cards rather than simply showing groups of cups, wands, swords, and pentacles. She used humans and animals to convey a new meaning of the cards and created amazing, detailed imagery. Her original images were created using her preferred style of gouache, which is a type of opaque watercolor mixed with a binding agent and natural pigments, and are the best examples of Pamela's imagination of fantasy, ecstasy, death, silliness, and the morbid. The deck was published in December of 1909 by William Rider and Son of London, and thus the original tarot deck was born. The first release was extremely limited and was simply called Tarot Cards, and was accompanied by the book Arthur wrote. The back of the cards was a simple pattern of lily and roses. In March of 1910, a larger release was done where the cards were better quality and a cracked mud design was on the back. This edition was called the A Deck and was published for the next 10 years, from 1910 to 1920. Rider continued to publish editions of the deck till 1939 due to the factor of, I kid you not, the Witchcraft Act of 1735. This is true. The Witchcraft Act of 1735 made it a crime for a person to claim any other human had magical powers or was guilty of practicing witchcraft. It also abolished the hunting and execution of witches in Great Britain. So I guess the cards stopped being produced because of witchcraft allegations. She's a witch. Drown her. Oh, she drowned. I guess she wasn't a witch. Throw in the next one. Pamela wrote an article in the 1908 The Craftsman magazine titled, Should the Art Student Think? In it she said, quote, learn from everything, see everything, and above all, feel everything. And make other people, when they look at your drawing, feel it too. Think good thoughts of beautiful things, colors, sounds, places, not mean thoughts. When you see a lot of dirty people in a crowd, do not remember only the dirt, but the great spirit that is in them all, and the power that they represent. Lift up your ideals, your weaklings, and force a way out of that thunderous clamor of the steam press, the hurrying herd of blind humanity, noise, dust, strife, seething toil. There is power. The imprisoned titans underneath the soul, grinding, writhing, take your strength from them. Throw aside your petty drawing room point of view. End quote. I think we can all learn from those wise words at the level of Gandhi and the Dalai Lama. Apart from the tarot deck and book illustrations, her art didn't find many business opportunities after her exhibits with Alfred in New York. Several examples of Pamela's work done in opaque watercolors were collected by her cousin, actor William Gillette, who played the American Sherlock Holmes on stage and in a 1916 silent film. Though the tarot deck was sold for 6 shillings, which is about $42 today, and apparently that was a very expensive price back then, and was the first mass-marketed tarot deck, since Arthur published the deck, it became known as the Rider-Waite deck. Pamela was given a small, let me say that again, small fee, no royalty, and was given 0 credit for her work. We don't like that at all. Just another man taking the credit for a woman's work. Gotta love it. In a letter to Alfred, Pamela described this snub as, quote, a big task for a very small payment, end quote. But she managed to sneak in a distinctive monogram on each card, except, interestingly and tellingly, the Fool card. If you find yourself looking online after this, you'll find a snake wrapped around a P-shaped staff overlaid with a C and S, an abbreviation for Pamela Colman Smith. Once I read that, I went back and I looked at the cards. Wow. That's a little sneak in there for you that I had no idea until it was pointed out to me. I just love the sneakiness of it all. I just love the sneakiness. Following the publication of the deck, Pamela grew more and more interested in Irish mythology. I mean, shoot, I love Irish mythology. I think it's really cool. We would have been best friends, but we'll just put it that way. And in 1911, she illustrated a book with her friend Bram called Lair of the White Worm, which would be his last book. In that same year, she converted to Catholicism and moved from London to Cornwall. During World War I, she did some illustrations for the war effort, and after the war, she received inheritance money from an uncle and used it to buy a house on the Lizard Peninsula, which is an area of Cornwall popular for artists. She continued to make money by establishing a vacation home for Catholic priests in a neighboring house. Her longtime friend, roommate, and supposed lover, Nora Lake, joined Pamela to help run the vacation home. In 1913, Pamela did illustrations for a book published by Duffield and Company called Blue Beard about the famous French folktale Bluebeard. Apparently, how the story goes is a wealthy man of high status who, soon after his marriage, disappears. Very fitting. Leaving his wife the keys to all the doors in his castle. But she is forbidden to open one door. But curiosity gets the best of her, and she unlocks the forbidden door and finds a room filled with the bodies of his former wives. That's different. Look, not every fairy tale is a Disney fairy tale, just saying. If you ever want your childhood ruined, look up the original story of Sleeping Beauty and Ariel. I know they all have a meaning, but man, that's harsh. Pamela's last exhibition was in 1914. After several years of financial heartache and following the Great Depression, Pamela left Lizard and went to Exeter in 1939. Then went to Bude, where she got an apartment at the Ben Coolin House in the early 1940s. There, she continued to be active as a commercial artist, including several illustrations for the war effort during World War II, became more devoted to causes like women's suffrage and the Red Cross, and she became more involved with her church. It is said that she left the art world due to financial problems and that after the First World War, public taste had changed. Pamela Colman Pixie Smith died on September 18, 1951 in her apartment at the age of 73. She died virtually penniless and in considerable debt, and her possessions were auctioned off to pay off those debts. Her exact gravesite is unknown, but it is thought that she is buried in an unmarked grave in St. Michael and All Angels Church in Bude. Though she went into obscurity, Pamela is making a comeback. To recognize her work, the Rider-Waite Tarot deck has been renamed to the Waite-Smith Tarot deck, even sometimes called the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot deck, or RWS for short. Personally, I think Rider and Waite shouldn't be anywhere near the deck. It should just be called the Pamela Colman Smith Tarot deck, but that's just me. Since the publication of the Waite-Smith Tarot deck, it has been the pinnacle of tarot deck art for the last century. Once the Witchcraft Act was repealed in 1951, the year of Pamela's death, nonetheless, the tarot deck was once again distributed wildly from 1971 to 1977, when it was bought by US Game Systems founder Stuart Kaplan. Since then, it has boomed. And in just the last few decades, thousands of new remastered versions of Pamela's original deck has been done by countless artists and illustrators. In 2018, Stewart published a 440-page book called Pamela Colman Smith, The Untold Story, a very detailed 20 years worth of research biography about her life. In 2019, the Pratt Institute Libraries held an exhibition of Pamela's work called Pamela Colman Smith, Life and Work, and featured books, replications of paintings and illustrations, prints, photographs, and of course, tarot decks. Boom! There you go. Pamela is my new favorite woman that I've done on this channel. She is fascinating. And the fact that she was just simply erased from all of her work and just kind of went into the void of her work was stolen, essentially, it gets me riled up. How I found her was that I was watching Universal Intuition. Go watch her. She's bubbly. She's awesome. I love her. Fully recommend her channel. She kept on mentioning her during her, I believe it was February readings, because Pamela here is an Aquarius. She kept mentioning her and mentioning her and mentioning her, and I'm like, who the heck is this person? And then I looked her up and I was all like, she is going in the October lineup. And I hope that this has been as much of a detailed version as I can get into Pamela. Yeah, she is my new favorite person. If you learned something today, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And while you're down there, please leave a friendly comment. And what is your zodiac sign? I'm putting that in there because I freaking can. I'll be back next week with another video. And until then, don't be well behaved. You just might make herstory. See you next time, guys. I'm a Gemini, so you know.